Hello everyone, my name is Phawx. This is the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus. I had this device for about a week now. I've been playing with it on and off throughout that week. I'm finding myself rather compelled by it. It's actually pretty good. One thing that I want to start doing with these devices, now that they're going to gain the ability to start playing GamePass, before we get there, there's one little setting that I would like to change. If you can take a look at these face buttons here, you can see that they're Nintendo style, so BAYX instead of ABXY. They actually have a setting in the settings to change that. If we go to handheld settings and you go to input, controller style, and it's by default set to retro. What you're going to want to do is just select Xbox. And when you do that, obviously when you're playing game streaming, these face buttons will now correspond to the correct button. Now, there is the GamePass app, which you can actually just run. Now, the one thing that is interesting and a little bit weird about this is that it kind of puts it off into the side a bit. So I don't really recommend using the GamePass app, but I will show it here. What I actually do recommend is actually just using the browser, the Chrome browser, to go to xbox.com/play, and that actually has a better overall experience. Now, you can kind of see it right here that it's getting kind of chopped off. I'm just showing you this just so that, you know, I don't really recommend using GamePass, the app. I do recommend using the Chrome browser, and I'll show you the difference between the two real quick. So it becomes really evident, like it's just chopping off a whole bunch. So we're actually wasting a lot of screen real estate here, and it's already on a small screen. So this is not the most ideal situation. But we'll go ahead and just take a look at what that looks like. So once again, this is using the GamePass app itself. Not something that I typically recommend, especially for these kind of oddball devices that are going to be playing xCloud when they really shouldn't be, but it works really, really well. The 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi is just absolutely stunning on this tiny little device that's very low cost. Alright, so we can see that this works well enough, but let's go see what it looks like on the browser. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to xbox.com/play. When you go here, this is more or less the same type of interface that GamePass Cloud's part will give you, except it's all through the browser. Now, for what it's worth, it works way better through the browser. So once again, this is going to be the way that I recommend that everyone does it. So go ahead and just go back into Forza 5. Now, even though it says that the controller is disconnected or idle, just go ahead and click continue anyway, and you'll just jump straight into the game. Okay, it should be evident now that I am running it in a browser because you can see the screen is more ideally centered and a slight bit larger. So we're really maximizing the real estate that's available on the relatively small screen on the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus. Although it's meant for retro gaming, it's meant for 4x3 content more so than 16:9 content, which you're going to be playing on cloud streaming through xCloud or any other type of cloud streaming. The thing is that it runs alarmingly well. It's a relatively inexpensive retro handheld. Now the thing that's really cool here is that it does support 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, and for how inexpensive it is, the Wi-Fi chipset on this is alarmingly good. Now, there are a few things to note here. So it does have stacked shoulders, so all the controls do work. However, L3 and R3 don't work. This is a full analog stick, and this is kind of like a PSP slider. It feels like 4 rubber bands holding it together, which isn't ideal, but it does work. Now, their L3 and R3 will not work, so perhaps there's going to be some other method to map those to touch elements, but for right now, L3 and R3 will not work, so in a game that you needed to use L3 and R3, that's not going to be possible. So, I just wanted to show this off real quick. This is my preferred setup, is playing in a browser. I will show off a few more games and call it a day.
Delivery driver, award-winning. It's done! Get out of the way!
Alrighty, so that's going to be my look at xCloud running on the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus. Now, is this something that I would recommend to run on this particular device? No. There are better devices to be streaming to a handheld. However, it is inexpensive. If you were getting it to play other games, it is pretty neat, and if you had Game Pass, I would say give it a go. I think it'll surprise you. Again, the Wi-Fi chipset is really, really alarmingly good. Also, when you switch the control layout to Xbox, it kind of just works as you would expect it to work, minus the L3 and R3. But overall, it's a tiny little pocketable device that can stream on xCloud. Pretty nice, and even just using like Dragon Ball Fighter Z, its latency isn't that bad. So that's my look at xCloud. As always, guys, thank you for your time, and thanks for watching.